It comes from the Harvard College magazine. The article in there says that if you compare private colleges and universities in America to public colleges and universities, and further compare both of them to what are called the historically black colleges and universities in America, here's what you discover. The amount of spending per student is the highest in the private schools, is considerably lower in the public schools, and is at the bottom with the historically black colleges and universities. And as the article points out, what this does is to confirm inequalities from generation to generation. Those who have the money to send their kids to the elite schools, to prepare them from nursery school on to do that, those wealthy people get their kids into the elite schools. And those who are less wealthy get them into the public universities where the tuitions are more bearable. You see the story. It's a way of reinforcing the divisions in this society, making sure they go from one generation to the next. When the explanation comes, why is this happening? The author cites market forces. This has the same solid weight as if he had said magic or something like that, because the obvious response to being told that market forces did it is to ask why the market forces work that way. And my suspicion is they don't want to say the word that needs to be said: capitalism. It's a system in which the distribution of wealth goes to a very small number of people, those tiny boards of directors at the top of every big corporation who decide how to distribute the profits, not to all the people who help produce them, but rather to the shareholders and the top executives and the board of directors who run the business, a tiny minority, and they become very wealthy, and they want their kids to go to the right schools, so they make sure that happens. This is an old story, and you ought to understand that if you allow corporations to work that way, you're going to see the rest of society reflect all of that, and that's why the private schools spend a lot more per student than the public colleges and universities, and both of them more than the historically black colleges and universities. No one should be surprised at how these different communities do, because the system is set up like this. You might even say it's rigged. But this is not an American problem. In The Guardian, a British newspaper, there is a story in which a former Minister of Education used the Freedom of Information Act to discover that 82% of the admissions into Oxford University and 81% of the admissions into Cambridge University went to students from the top two socioeconomic groups. That's up from 79% 5 years ago. In other words, England, like the United States, gives the richest people the special access to the institutions which keep them the richest people, thereby keeping it going generation after generation. The United States is not alone in this kind of behavior, but it needs to be called out, don't you think?